What a game and what a win. Wow. LSU knocks off Missouri. Bryce Koon alongside Glen West as we react to this one. Glenn, we got to watch from the comfort of our own couches, but it doesn't mean that it was any less stressful. This was a back and forth battle. This was a game that looked like it could get ugly early in favor of Missouri, but man, LSU storms back. A lot of storylines to talk about. Jaden Daniels, a second half defense that just allowed 2 of 7 for Missouri on third downs. Where do you sit as we kind of just look at this game from a whole perspective here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of wishing that you and I had gone to this one after watching that one. That was a very exciting back and forth game. I think we both, and really a lot of the media, expected it to be a pretty high scoring back and forth game. But the story for me is Jaden Daniels. I mean, he was
Yeah.
just. I mean, it's tough to find the words. He was gritty. He was tough. He was just extremely, extremely impressive in that fourth quarter, in particular, after going down with that rib injury. He was lights out for LSU. I think he was absolutely, the reason that LSU kind of pulled away and won that game. He did a really nice job of being able to match Missouri, who was also making their big run in the second half when they had those couple touchdown drives. He answered it, and man, I just don't know that there's a player in college football that's playing better than him right now. I really don't. I
Yeah.
mean, it might be just bias from us just because we get to see him every week, but he has been just absolutely dominant in these last 3 or 4 SEC games. Um, and I think if this kind of trend continues, I wrote about it in our 3 observations piece, which I think will be kind of out when most people see this. But if he keeps continuing this trend, like he's going to get into that Heisman conversation. If LSU keeps winning
Yeah.
and he keeps playing the way that he has, it's not uncommon for a Heisman winner to have a 2-loss team. I mean, Manziel won it several years back, and
Caleb
he
Williams won it last year on
yeah,
the
Caleb
two-loss
Williams won it
USC
last
team.
year. Yeah, so I mean, like, there's certainly cases of it, and the way that he's kind of carrying this team right now, um, very, very impressive. Like I expected to see some improvement from him in his game in terms of his aggressiveness down the field. I didn't expect him to be what he's been. I mean, he's been just supremely accurate with those deep balls. Today was really his legs that I think really got going. He made some really, really big 35, 31-yard runs in the fourth quarter there, where when things maybe broke down in the back half,
Mhm.
and he was just able to use that ability, that athletic ability that we talked about for 2 years now, and really kind of carry LSU home there. And I thought that was extremely impressive. The game plan offensively, it definitely was leaning heavily on the run. I mean, I think that they definitely recognized that they were going to have to kind of control the clock with the way that the defense was playing, especially early in that game when the defense couldn't get a stop and it looked like it was going to be a lot more of the same. The fact that they were able to get Logan Diggs going, that they were able to really establish that run game and kind of chew off at least some of the clock. I mean, I think they were up on time of possession by halftime, despite, not really having a whole lot of, not being able to match the success, I guess, that Missouri had for
Yeah.
those first several drives. So, really impressive offensive performance. They did it in a pretty different way, I thought, today. And a win's a win. I mean, look, the defense. You can malign them for the first half. I think they found some really interesting things they can lean into in the second half. I thought that Harold Perkins looked as comfortable in coverage that he's looked really all season. I think he obviously had the big interception, but he also made some big plays behind the line of scrimmage and looked to be a little bit more sure of himself out there on the field and what he was being asked to do. So I really think that there was a lot of positives you can take from this performance. Now you get to come home for the next several weeks and kind of reassess, lick your wounds, try to continue to get this defense back on track. Because, like we said, if we can get this defense to just average for LSU,
Yeah.
the offense is going to win you games. We saw that today. The defense wasn't great in the first half, but I would say they were okay to good in the second half, and that's what you kind of need, I think, when you're having kind of your struggles like this. I thought Mason Smith came up with some big plays, in the second half, and Whit Weeks continues to show he's a guy that I think is going to be hard to take out of the lineup going forward. So yeah, I mean, I have more positives than negatives to take away from that game. is it sustainable? I think that's the question that we
Yeah.
kind of have to ask ourselves is, can the offense realistically continue to put up 50 points, and can the defense maybe hold teams to under 40? I mean, we'll see. I mean, you're kind of in a 1 week kind of trance here, but I do think that there were some positives that outweigh the negatives of this game, because of how gritty a performance that was, especially in the fourth quarter by Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I want to speak to real quick to a couple things that you just talked about. First, Jaden Daniels, heart and soul of this team right now. I mean, the ability to fight. He obviously had what we believe, and I think Kelly talked about in the postgame presser was a little bit of a rib injury. And Daniels told the media of that after he kind of got slammed to the ground there. What we thought was going to be a touchdown ended up not being one. But that being said, Glenn, we don't need to talk about the officiating. We don't have to talk about that. That was something interesting in its own right. But a couple things you pointed out. The end of the first half, it was a 17-minute to 10-minute differential 7-minute differential in total of holding the ball LSU was. I saw that and I said, you know what? The score's not in the favor, but if they can keep that trend up, they could wear down this Missouri defense. Another thing, in that fourth quarter, Missouri, who really did a good job of running the football, I think LSU still has a lot of work to do up
Oh yeah.
front and essentially gap assignment sound. But I think we got to give Missouri credit. They got some big guys up there. They were able to move that defensive line. They only averaged negative 0.4 yards per carry, totaled out to -2 in the fourth quarter, Glenn. So when the defense needed to, they came up with some big stops, as well as only allowing Missouri to go 0 for 3 on third downs. Look, you mentioned it. There's a lot of issues that still remain, and I don't think anyone, including you or myself or anybody affiliated with the program or a fan, thought that, we know what, 7 weeks removed from one of the worst performances and hiring Pete Jenkins, it's all going to be okay. It was never going to be like that. But I do agree with you that as bad as it looked in the first half, you found some things. I know we were very skeptical of playing 3 linebackers on the field, but if Harold Perkins emerges more in coverage, maybe it's not such a bad idea. I mean, it's a lot of things going forward. You go into Auburn next week, and then you play Army, and then you get that bye week. I'll tell you one thing. I think LSU needs a bye week to work on some things. They're in desperate need of a bye week to kind of figure some things out, but really liked that as well. I wanted to talk to you about the defense. Mason Smith looked energized, and when he gets going, it's scary. It's a scary thought, a guy that big. Did you like the performance at times of this front seven, especially late in the game in clutch situations?
I did. I thought that Mason Smith, like you said, he had a big sack there. He had a pass defend. I think he blocked a pass right at the line of scrimmage
Mm-hmm.
in the fourth quarter. Um, I mean, I still want to see more. I mean, look, Braden Swinson had a really big play today as well off the edge, forcing that
Yeah.
fumble in the fourth quarter that really kind of put Missouri on that second last drive there in a big hole. I mean, they were 4th and 32 and they went for it, and that play call. I mean, I guess that's really all you can do outside of a Hail Mary, but it was definitely questionable, I thought. But look, I mean, there were some moments, like I said, they got some pressure there in the second half. I thought that, not only just Smith and Swinson, but I thought, Gofu had a nice pressure.
Mm-hmm.
When Jordan Jefferson had a nice tackle for loss back there with Whit Weeks, I thought that was a really important play as well to kind of establish themselves in that third quarter. So yeah, there were some moments, but like you mentioned, I think probably the disappointing thing continues to be the running game. They've given up far too many yards on the ground. Even there in the third or fourth quarter, they let Cook kind of run wild on him there on one drive where I
Yeah.
think he had 28 or 30 yards rushing and kind of helped lead them to a score there. And they're still prone to the big plays. I mean, look, after LSU went up, I believe it was the first time that they went up in the fourth quarter. Missouri marched right down the field on 5 plays and scored a touchdown. I mean, that can't happen, especially when you've got kind of an inspired performance going on like that offensively. So, like you said, there's still plenty of stuff to clean up. I'm still kind of in a holding pattern, I guess, with this group right now. I just don't
Yeah.
really know um, what team we're expecting to see kind of going forward. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Fair enough.
there were 2 different versions I thought of this group. The second half team that played pretty well for most of the third and parts of the fourth quarter, and then there was that group in the first half that really just couldn't figure much out till that Harold Perkins interception. So Maybe it's just going to be kind of a thing where they have to figure out timing. The secondary? I don't think is going to improve. I think we can go out on a limb and
Yeah.
say that that's going to be a unit that continues to struggle, especially in the cornerback room. But if they
Yeah.
can get the front seven playing a little bit more consistently, getting some more pressure on some of these quarterbacks and in the backfield, then I think you can get this defense up to being average, and that's kind of what all you need to when this offense is executing the way that it has.
Tackling still an issue. I think
Oh
it
yeah,
was Sage Ryan that tried to strip the ball that one time as well. That was frustrating to, I think, to watch for fans as well. But look, altogether, you see what LSU is able to do. I wanted to mention this too because we can't leave this podcast, this little instant reaction podcast, without talking a career day for Logan Diggs. 24 carries, 134 yards, average 5.6. Glenn, it's the combination of explosion, physical, running in between the tackles. I don't, and you correct me, I just don't know when I've seen an LSU team have a guy like this. I don't think they really had that last year. They had it in spurts, but the consistency that Logan Diggs brings to this room, yes, it offsets what Daniels has to do, and it offsets what the passing game has to do, but it really makes this a balanced attack. As we kind of wrap it up here, talk about the performance of Logan Diggs.
yeah. I mean, look, I think he's been, arguably one of their most important pieces here offensively as they've really kind of exploded. I mean, the way that they were able to get the run game going today, I can't remember exactly how they split it up. I think it was, let me check here real quick. It was 23 passes to 42, to 23 passes to 43 run attempts. And Logan Diggs had 24 of those carries. So Logan Diggs actually ran the ball more than Jaden Daniels threw the ball today. So that
Wow.
kind of just tells you that they are really leaning into him and they really feel like he's going to be a huge piece of what they're doing going forward. Thought he was fantastic. I mean, I don't think we've seen a running back have this kind of effect on an offense since Clyde Edwards-Helaire back in 2019
Mm,
when he was pretty consistent for LSU. But yeah, I do think that he's going to be kind of the workhorse going forward. You didn't really see a whole lot of work for Josh Williams or Caleb Jackson or John Emery today. I think they really like what they have in Logan Diggs, and so far he hasn't done anything to prove the coaches otherwise. I mean, that trust is fully in with him right now. I expect that to continue, and if LSU is going to be in some of these kind of higher scoring games, maybe it's going to be a strategy of theirs to try to lean into the run game more and chew clock and try to win that way and still be efficient as an offense. So I think they have the talent to do it. We'll see if they can kind of merge those two ideas together, but they kind of need this defense to just get average. I think at the end of the day, that's what
yeah.
we have to realistically expect or hope that this group is able to do. Whether they're able to, make good on that, who knows? But
Yeah.
they have some time now. They're still in the SEC West race. If you lose today, it's pretty much all over, right? I mean, that's kind
Yeah.
of how you're
Yeah.
looking at these games going forward. Is you can't really afford another hiccup if you want to achieve some of your season long goals. And really liked the fight. Really liked obviously what Daniels did. I mean, we could talk about his performance probably for another 45 minutes, but I mean, just a really gritty win, tough win on the road. Only have to go on the road now one more time this year. You get to come home now for a month and really try to lock in and see if you can't get this season fully back on track and kind of in a really good spot before that game in early November. We'll see.
Yeah, Brian Kelly said earlier in the week, coming off that loss to Ole Miss, it is a week by week basis. Survive and advance. LSU was in the situation last year, and now they find themselves in a similar one. And look, you can check if you've got a bulletin board at home or you got a whiteboard, you can check Missouri off the list. They went on the road, played a really good team in Missouri. And look, I don't want to disparage what Missouri is. Brady Cook's a really good quarterback. Glenn Luther Burden lives up to the tweet that you put out in the message on the message board. Kid's a bona fide star. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody really going to be able to guard him effectively at the college level.
Yeah,
So
no,
a
I
lot of
don't think
fun.
so either. He was great. I mean, look, I think probably one of the underrated parts, which I also included in our observations piece, was he had 9 catches for 110 yards in the first half and 2 catches for 39 yards in the second half.
Mm,
They really did a good job of neutralizing him. Uh, the run game, not so much, but you have to take something away, and they were able to at
yeah.
least neutralize Burden some in that second half. And I think that's kind of what helped lead to some of those stops and some of those big time plays.
Obviously, big win for LSU in this one, 49-39. They take down Missouri. Now they will come back home. It'll be another all Tigers matchup against Auburn next weekend in Death Valley, then Army, and then I think a much needed bye week to kind of right the ship before a massive game. Glenn, I've got the Alabama Texas A&M game on. The one thing I can tell you is there's a lot of Jekyll and Hyde in the SEC West right now. So that being said, if LSU can find that average defense or just something semblance of that, I mean, why not say that they have a chance to run the table? They did it last year when a lot of people didn't think they could. Not sunshine pumping here, Glenn, but I'll leave it to you as we wrap it up. Who says it can't happen?
It absolutely can happen. I mean, the way this offense is playing right now, like there's not a defense I don't think in the SEC that can slow it down. I mean, just based off of what we've seen so far. I mean, maybe A&M if they hit on the right week and LSU's
True.
offense is not, uh, clicking that week. But if this offense is clicking, I just don't see how there's any way that there's going to be a team that can hold this group under 30 points. And if you
Mm,
can get this group to consistently put up 40 points and then get the defense at least on some similar track to where they're not giving up, 600 yards a game, 500 yards a game, then I absolutely think that LSU can beat every single one of these teams that they have left in the season. But you just never know with these kinds of defenses. Like, I mean, it's you mentioned the Jekyll and Hyde thing. It really feels like LSU's kind of like that right now with the
yeah.
offense and the defense. It's just two opposite ends of the spectrum, and we'll see if they can't kind of merge together and have some more consistency going forward.
Exactly, exactly. Glen West, my name's Bryce Koon. Hey, thanks so much for joining in. Head over to Go 24/7. We're going to have content rolling all the way through Sunday, kind of talking about this game. I'll have a grades and analysis piece. Sonny's going to get up some great PFF grades. It's going to take us a little bit more in depth of what the professionals think how this defense graded out. I think that's going to be something very interesting to look at in this game, give us a little more idea of what happened. And then, hey, we'll roll into Auburn week next week, Glenn. So this better be buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun. But hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Instant Reaction Podcast here on the YouTube channel. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, make sure to give us a follow there as well. Glen West, my name is Bryce Koon. We'll catch you next time here on the Go 24/7 podcast.